Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies, a podcast about people sharing extraordinary stories about how music has impacted their lives.
Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies. I'm your host, Annette Smith, and today is really an interesting day. I have never did a podcast like this. We have an intuitive sound healer and reincarnation guide, as well as a spiritual coach, which is kind of crazy because I grew up in this kind of realm of things. So I love the fact that you reached out and you wanted to be on the podcast. I know that your blog and podcast are all about helping people make sense of their own lives. And please help me welcome, oh my God, I'm so scared to say her name wrong. Katische, right? Did I say it right? Yay,
Yep.
Yay, Annette. I am probably the worst person with names, so I so apologize. So welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on. And where are you from?
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm from Brisbane in the state of Queensland in Australia.
Wow. So you're not like next door to me because I'm in Canada and right now it's snowing right now. It started snowing. It's crazy.
Yeah, opposite end. We're coming in. We're summer and it's raining outside. We're in the rainy season and I've just turned the air conditioning on because it's hot.
I don't think we would ever turn the air conditioning on while it's raining here in Canada. Well, maybe in BC, but not in Calgary, that's for sure.
Yeah, we have incredible humidity, so we're tropical. So we have you ever been to a tropical country where you get out of the plane and you just hit with a heat wave? That's just that you feel like you've kind of been through the washing machine and pulled yourself out of the cycle 3/4 of the way through. Yeah, that's kind of what it's like in summer here.
I love it. So before we get started, I wanted you to describe how it was putting your playlist together, because it's a very unique thing that you do, and how you reached out. You spoke about how you utilize music with what you're doing with your healing. So I am excited to kind of hear how you put this playlist together. And if you were to describe your playlist to somebody, how would you describe it?
Sure, good questions. So the reason that I reached out to you was because it's not something that I would normally associate myself with. Because if you asked me what was on the radio at the moment or what the latest albums were, like my kids would laugh at me. I've got one very musically inclined, like he knows what's going on in the charts, one absolutely oblivious, and I'm also oblivious. Every now and then I'll catch into a few songs that I might hear in passing. I listen to Spotify, so Spotify tries to chuck new songs into my playlist, and I'm like, the sanctity of my playlist, don't put random music in there. I've curated it for a particular reason and I don't want junk coming in. And so I wouldn't describe myself as an overly musical person. I love music though, but I use it in a really kind of a specific way, and the specific way has evolved into what I do for a living. So I don't know, in the last 10 years, I've really become aware of the power of music in my life. So, like every other teenager on the planet, I had my favorite artists. I grew up in the era when Madonna was young and she was the person that you loved, like a virgin, and all of her songs, Material Girl, that was the 80s, that was who we were. We all loved Madonna. We all wanted to be like Madonna. So I'm like every other child out there from that time. I listened to the radio. Back then we had to have the tape decks and, you pressed record and you had to record off. You were taking a recording in your bedroom while the radio was playing, so you had to, be really careful with the keys, and you would get the ads in, and like kids today don't kind of get that thing. So I grew up with that whole thing of mixed tape decks and songs having significance, and especially, boyfriends and girlfriends having songs, and it's not quite the same these days, I don't think. I remember the first album, the vinyl record that we bought in our family and stuff like that. So, but as I grew older, I sort of it sort of faded out, and I realized I was highly influenced by who I was around when it came to music. I wasn't really thinking about what I really liked. And in the last few years, music has become more important to me because I really honed into the power of understanding emotions and then understanding how, because I'm big into all senses, so I'm really big into using like 50 million women around the world aromatherapy to help me change my mood. Yeah, so I'm one of these freaks with 100 diffusers in a house and lots and lots of essential oils because I just love the stuff. And I have a diffuser going right now because it's 4:30 a.m. and I'm waking up, so I have something invigorating. But I noticed that I could not only do that with aromas, but I can use it with my ears, so with my sensory component in terms of changing my mood with what I was listening to. And as soon as I figured that out, I mean, I guess everybody knows that, yeah? When you're angry, you put on a song that matches it. Where you're sad, that's why love songs are so popular, yeah? Because we know after a breakup, we all cry and it makes us feel better when we listen to a really sad song. So when I started to tap into the power of music, I was like, oh, I can, like, I can really geek down on this. And, when I'm grown up and I can be as weird as I like, and I can really curate what I listen to. And hey, it's my house, and if I want to put on music that has a specific binaural beat to work with entrainment of the brain at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, so that I get into a specific mindset before I start the day. Guess what, girlfriend? You're old enough, and
That's
you have
right.
your own place, and you can do that. Like, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I finally gave myself permission to be weird. So the challenge for me and why I wanted to think about this was I thought, wow, I wonder how hard it would be to sit down and make a playlist of 10 songs. And what the heck would you put on it? And so I made a playlist and I thought, oh, wow, that was easy. And then I was like, oh, no, it wasn't. Well, what about this song, this song, and this song, and this song? And, hours went past as you like re-listening to the length of song several times to go, oh, did this one have more meaning and impact, or did this one have more meaning and impact? And, and then Spotify starts suggesting ones, and you're like, oh no, but I think everyone that you've had on the show is like that. They're like, and then each time you listen to a song, a new memory comes flooding back in.
That's right.
And so that's interesting because I'm a person who uses sound to take people into their past lives. So I use crystal singing bowls and koshi chimes, and we take them into a deep trance, and they go into past life memories. And the act of simply listening to a song, as you do with every other podcast guest, and reminiscing about the memories that it comes back, is almost exactly like what happens in a past life regression. It's really not that scary. It's like when you access a song and you get that memory trigger immediately, that's the same as past life regression. It's just that you're being triggered in a deeper trance state. So it was really fun for me to just look at two things: how I curated the process of me over time, going, when did I start listening to music and really listening to the sounds and then the words and then how it affected my emotions? So I was working on also, can I pinpoint when I started listening to music that affected my emotions? And in particular, what I doubled down with for this podcast playlist was, where did I start really looking into sort of epic style music and pinpointing how, music and musicals, when I look back, I can see an emotional link to it, or a developmental link, or a major shift in something.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's get started with your first song. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. House of the Rising Sun, The Animals. It's a great song. So when you hear that song, what kind of memory or story does that bring up for you?
My dad. That's my dad. That's my sentimental song my dad passed about, I think it was 8 years ago, and he loved that song. And so that's my memory of Dad. That's specifically the memory of how when houses were built back in the 80s, they had the good room, the lounge room that you didn't go into unless the visitors came.
Yeah.
So Dad had his stereo in there, and when Mum was out shopping, he would crank up some of these songs. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, this is the rebellious side of Dad.
Yeah, you would probably jump on the furniture and be like, oh, okay, we'll straighten out the plastic later. Not a big deal. What was one thing that your dad taught you?
Oh, his motto, he had this secret motto about being a rebel. And I'm still unpacking it after death. You know, all of his passcodes for his computers and everything after he died, we had to decipher them. We're all encrypted and encoded. And they all to do with the rebellion, whatever rebellion he was in life. And he led a very conservative life. He was a financial planner and a financial advisor, and he lived a very straight life. But underneath there was this real... He believed his life was a rebellion against what was expected of him, and so even though I didn't see him as a rebellious being, he had a different perception of him, and that's all that mattered at the end of the day. Was he, doing it the way that he wanted to, irrespective of whether I thought he was or not. It doesn't matter what. I've learned a lot about that since he died. Is it doesn't matter what I thought of Dad. I loved him dearly, and he was very important to me, but how did he feel about what he was doing? Because really, families were just very judgmental, and I could think of a billion things that I had regret for him after he died. But in the days since, I've learnt, no, he had this different side to him that was pure geek and pure this and pure that, and yeah, he was comfortable with it. He was good. Yeah. Don't worry about me. He was good.
Did you get any of that from your dad?
Not in the mainstream, no. You did in the quiet moments when he wasn't busy and stressed with work. Like when he would play his music in the car, he'd very definitely crank the music loud. And he was a real history geek, and he loved to play computer games. And when you saw that side of him, when people met him, they're like, they either loved him and his sense of humor, or they're like, not quite sure about him. But people who get me got my dad, and I appreciate that now, because as you get older, you're like, oh, fuck those people who don't get you, because, revel in your weirdness, I reckon. Revel in your weirdness.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, next song. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So this, obviously, we'll fast forward a little bit, because the beginning of Thriller, Michael Jackson. So what were you, grade 6, 7, or were you a little bit older when Michael Jackson first came out?
I was young.
Were you younger?
Yeah, Thriller. When was Thriller? 1983 or 2, something like that. Younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in early primary school, so I was 7 or 8. Yeah, okay. Something like that. Yeah, so that was just like, I'm not a fan of horror movies, but I love that film clip. For me, that song is the film clip. And every single time I play that, it's like I can see every scene of Thriller. Like, it was a monumental movie clip for the time. Like, it was just like nothing else any of us had ever seen. And what I loved about it was that you got yourself a little creeped out, and they had all the dancing. You were kind of like, how do they do that? Can I do that? No, cannot do that. And it just, it got you in this really kind of this... With all the musical pieces, I think what I've chosen is they start off and then they take you to a crescendo and then they take you back down. There's this flow of emotion through the piece where you can really release emotions in them. And this song, especially if you're a singing in the car person, you can really let out some emotion when you're singing these songs, especially like the previous one as well. So yeah, for me, this is like quintessential childhood. It's the... my family had a dairy company as well, so we had one for 75 years. We made milk and cheese and all that sort of stuff. And I do remember going to this pool one summer with my cousins, the public pool, and we had crates and crates of this chocolate milk that we were selling, and you shook it off. It was the first one that you would shake up and it became a milkshake. And the ads had if I remember rightly, Thriller as the backs vaccine to it. So it was kind of like cool for me because it was a little bit older then, and it was like a thriller without chocolate shake. Like it's like heaven.
That's awesome. What were you like growing up in high school, or elementary, high school?
Very quiet,
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a mixture of identities because I tend to. I'm learning to be truer to myself, but my personality tended to morph around who I was around. As I said, I was a day girl and a boarder, so my parents moved countries in the middle of my schooling. They moved to Papua New Guinea, so I lived in one country and they in another. And I only saw them at holidays, so I moved from having one set of friends in one year. So our high school here back then was grade 8 and grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. And in grade 8 and grade 9, I was living at home with my parents and catching the bus home, and I had one set of friends. And the next year, they were in a different country, and I was living at school, and I was thrown into living at school with people who'd already been living together for 2 years. So then it was reformulating friendships and figuring out who you sat with at school, because suddenly you wanted to catch up with your day girlfriends, but they saw you as a boarder now. And so conflicted,
Yeah.
changing personality, trying to figure out where I stood for, what I stood for in life. I always never was one of those people that had a group. I just knew lots and lots of people, and I would go and hang out with all of them. And I was like, well, I don't care who your friends are, and probably I don't like some of your friends in your group, but I like you, so I'm going to come and say hello and spend 5 minutes with you, and then I'll go and catch up with my next friend. Yeah. So.
And how about your boyfriends in high school? What were they like?
Didn't have any.
You didn't have any boyfriends in high school? Wow.
I think I got my first boyfriend in the last week of high school.
No way. Did you last 2 weeks, or did you just last until the end of high school?
He was in the year below me, and we went to America, so for the school holidays.
Yeah.
And by the time I came back, he'd already moved on. So.
So he's looking for an older woman to take him to America.
Well, no, he didn't come to America with us. It was just a family trip. But no, that was in the formal season where, you had to go out and find a partner and stuff like that. And the only other boyfriend that I had, like, if you want to talk like boyfriends, was when I went on exchange to Germany in between grade 11, the final senior years. We have 3 months holidays, and so I went on exchange to Germany. And when I was in Germany, I would consider him my first ever boyfriend, and I dated one of the host sisters' big brothers.
Really?
So he was a medicine student when I was in between just about to start my senior year, and so that was a real amazing, beautiful relationship. And I think that was probably why I didn't have any boyfriend in grade 12, because we were still trying to do that long distance letter writing.
Yeah.
For many months before I went, it's too hard.
Yeah. Do you still talk to him now, or did I bring up some old wounds? You're gonna look him up?
No. No, he's I have spoken to him every 10 years or so. I will send an email, how are you going? I can, if I ever get reminiscent, like everyone in the world, you can go Google them and watch a video or something on YouTube, and you can see them and you go, all right, yeah, yep, okay, caught up with your life, done.
I love it. All right, next song, another great band, In Excess. I love it. Need You Tonight.
I was wondering if you know that, because a lot of people around the world don't know In Excess. So, yeah, In Excess is definitely end of high school. I went to the In Excess concert, which was just amazing. We were allowed to go to the concert at boarding school. So it was like,
wow.
Oh my God, because we had really strict parameters about how often we're allowed to leave the boarding school. We had laser beams locking us in at night. Like, we was really like the nunnery almost. But so we were allowed to go as boarders to the concert. It was like, yeah. And I just remember him doing that slide over the stage in that song, and me just going, I think I've just realized my, everything in my body's just lit up, and I'm like, oh my God. I had that sort of feeling, and I'm like, now I understand why people fall in love with singers, because right at this moment, I would do anything for you after watching you slide on that stage. It was like that real rock star moment.
Yeah.
And people were always like, oh, but he's got a face full of acne scars. And I'm like, I know, but have you seen him slide across a stage? Like, yeah. So I still love In Excess. It's the teenage years. It's the, he's just such a sexually obvious out there man, and it just appealed to a young teenage woman. It's like, yeah, you're the rock star.
Yeah, I love it. So let's go back to boarding school. Lasers, what's going on there? What's happening with the lasers?
Yeah, for security. So the school was in the city, right in the city, and so also next door to the boys' school, which is where my boys go, which is really funny. And the year before, so it was a protection mechanism, because across the road there was a big park and some shelters for displaced people, and so it was a protection thing. But also, literally, the few months before I started as a boarder, the girls in my grade were caught with boys who'd climbed through the window from next door.
So it's impossible. You couldn't like Charlie's Angels through these lasers to get out.
No, even the hallways had alarms and stuff, because I do remember I had an appendicitis attack in grade 10, and having to be in all this pain and thinking, if I go out of the hallway to get to sister's office, the nurse, I'm going to trigger an alarm.
That's insane. So what time did that start at? Was it like 9 o'clock, lights are down, lasers are up?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Wow. And then when were they done? Like 6 o'clock, lasers are gone, time to get out?
I think it was pretty early, like 5 o'clock, because kids got to get up and go to sports practice and stuff like that. As soon as like the staff that left for the day to go back to their own lives left, like that we had a percentage of staff that stayed and lived on premise.
Yeah.
And then we had those that left, and as soon as the ones that are left gone, then they'd go on. But yeah, it was you didn't put your hand out the window, that's for sure.
So just set off alarm, wouldn't like chop your arm off or anything like that?
No, just set off a friendly alarm. Yeah.
All right, this next song, I love the intro, right? November Rain.
Oh.
Such a pretty song. So were you a big Guns N' Roses fan growing up?
I had to think about this, and this one here I adopted as my own song, but I think I was introduced to it by one of my I had a couple of different best friends. They weren't ever best friends, but really intense friendships that I hung out with. So this is my friend. To me, this song is my friendship with me and my friend Julie. And she was my day girlfriend. We went to primary school together, and then we went to high school together. I still know her today. And she was the model during high school. She was the long blonde hair, the skinny, the one that measured the gap between her thighs, the one that always had the boyfriends, the one that had the tumultuous boyfriends that, I learned about life through her relationships pretty much, and being the intermediary on the other end of the phone. Julie doesn't want to talk to you now, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And she was a huge Gunners fan and a huge Madonna fan and huge everything else from that era. And she was kind of like, she would very easily fit into the perfect beauty of Instagram today, and then also the teenage angst with the one who would have gone out with somebody from Guns N' Roses. Do you know what I mean? She fitted into both those worlds. And this is such an emotional song. I find it, when you watch the video clip, so emotionally draining, but also uplifting. And again, it takes you on that roller coaster ride. And if I need to just wear myself out, I'll just put on a few of these ballads like this, these epic songs, and I'm like, oh, that feels better. It's just such an emotive song. Yeah, but it's got that real teenage spirit to it as well. And yeah.
You have a go-to crying song? You feel like a good cry?
It has to be Adele. I think everyone in the world has to use Adele, don't they?
Yeah. So if you could date any artist out there on the planet when you were from grade 12 and under, what artist would you date for a day or a couple days?
I would have liked to date Michael Hutchence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have definitely liked to not to go on a date with him, but just to be friends with Michael Jackson because he was just so unusual and different
Yeah.
and talented, and you didn't know what to believe about him, but he was just so gifted, and just to have sat down with him
And have a
and seen,
conversation.
yeah, and actually
Yeah.
have seen the reality of his life versus what the media portrayed. I think that was the kind of the first rock star or the first celebrity that you were like, I'm not sure if I trust this media. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's a good guy, but I don't know what to believe. And he's clearly talented, and I love his music. So what's going on there? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the most interesting reincarnation guide that you've did?
Oh, I've done some interesting ones recently. I'm attracted to royalty, so a lot of my clients that come through, like, honest to God, we're getting some royals coming through from a very long time ago. But yes, last week I had somebody who revisited herself in a Pleiadian planet.
Really?
That was like, I was like, wow, that was cool. That was really cool. That was like totally unexpected because one moment we were in times long ago, like BC times. Some people can clearly tell you the date, and some people have got, I don't know, there's no houses, we live in caves. Does that give you an idea? And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then so like one minute we'd just done that live, and that was amazing. Because there were stone circles in that, and she had these amazing powers, which have translated into what she does today. And then the next minute she's like, we finished that one, and she's like, oh, and she knew exactly where she was. She was so excited to be there. She said, I've dreamt of this. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. And then she could describe it. And it was a water planet. And it was like, wow, okay, all right. Because I've always wondered. And then recently with the energies, lots of people are discovering, lots of star seeds are discovering memories of a very, very long time ago. Distant planet life. And so usually in a regression you'll go forward, like they'll pick their oldest one and then they'll move through. But this one kept going back in time. So it was like, wow, okay. Most of the stuff I've been doing recently has been in the 14, 15, 16, 1700s, and this lady, she just went way back. So that was really cool. And it tests the limits of your beliefs as the person. And the more you know about the person, so a lot of people that I've been working with have been people that I know at the moment because they trust me because they've already had that relationship. And so we can have these amazing conversations while they're in trance because I know about what they do professionally. And so when things come through, it's like, wow, that really makes sense. It really makes sense. And you can understand really clearly why you are the way you are, why you're interested in the things you're interested in, why things upset you. Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So is that why people come and see you? They just, they just have some questions about their life. They want to understand why maybe they haven't overcame certain types of obstacles or they keep running into it.
Yes. So you can come for past life tourism, just like, hey, I'm really curious. Let me have a go before I spend a lot of money with you, which is a good idea, yeah. Or you can be like, so one of the series that I do that is really intense, and I've had to put a sign up saying, do not come and book in for this if you're in the middle of a breakup or have been recently divorced or whatever, is the one where we look at your astrology. We combine astrology with it. So I'm not like a normal hypnotherapist. I use the singing bowls and the music to take you into the trance, so I don't just talk. And the power of the music takes you in deeper. That's the whole point, is that the music occupies your normal thinking ego mind. It worries about what it's listening to, and then you can go into trance faster and deeper. And then I do their astrological birth chart, and I look for one planet. Well, it's not a planet, it's an asteroid, Juno. And Juno is the asteroid that helps with committed relationships. So we have Venus, which is about romantic relationships. Sorry, and then we have Juno, which is about what you need from a committed relationship. And this is just absolutely friggin' mind-blowing. If you look at the house and the placement of where Juno is in your astrological birth chart, you can learn why you are the way you are in relationships. So it talks about the patterns of relationships you have, and it tells you, like it gives you, I have its book, and it gives you a generated set of statements according to the astrology, and it will tell you what your soul needs in this lifetime from a relationship. And people will listen to what I say to them and they're just like, you're spot on. You're so exactly right. Because we'll talk about the patterns that they've gone through, how many relationships, we'll really deep dive. And then I'll tell them what their soul's actually looking for. And they're like, yep, see, that's the missing link in all of these. Yeah. And then the part that links to reincarnation is we then look at what the backstory is, why your placement is in that house and sign. And I'll tell you, okay, this is the backstory, so the fairy tale backstory of why you're like that. This is what happened to you. And then we take that moment and we dive into a past life. So we go, right, knowing this, please take us to a moment in time where we can see this working out, as in show us the drama unfolding.
Yeah. And can you do that over a Zoom meeting or do you have to do it in person?
No, they're all done over Zoom.
Okay, good. Just for I can let the audience know.
Yeah. So most of
all that stuff.
Yeah, my customers are from America and UK mostly.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm excited. I want to do that with you for sure. That'd be really cool.
Fun but intense. So you can do it for lighthearted stuff, show me my best moment ever or whatever it is, but mostly if you're up for the meaty stuff, then we tailor it due to emotion. So, okay, why am I so angry? Or I've never been angry and anger's coming up now. Show me what's happening. And then you'll be taken to lifetimes that show you the patterns of anger. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. All right, next song. I'm Kissing You. I feel like now we're getting into a little bit of musicals, right? You have some musicals on your playlist.
Romeo and Juliet. So that's what I associate Desiree's song with Romeo and Juliet, with Leo and Claire. And I fell so hard for both of them in this movie. It was such a long time ago now. They were such little babies in Romeo and Juliet. And again, it's another one of those things, this movie and this soundtrack in particular brought to life Shakespeare for me. Yeah. Before this, I enjoyed Shakespeare. I loved Macbeth and, we studied it in English at school. But the way that Baz Luhrmann put together the music and the cast was just such a modern take on Romeo and Juliet, and it brought it to life. Like everybody got it. When you saw it in that movie, you could really feel it. You really got the angst and the battles between the families, and it just brought it to life. And it's such a tragedy, the Romeo and Juliet story, and so the music reflects the emotions. That's what I love about soundtracks to movies, is that they reflect the emotion. And so when you listen to it, you can be catapulted back to the exact scene. And with this, it was a CD back when I bought it. It was a double CD. You had the side, not really technical with music. You'd have the side with all the songs, and then you have the side without the words, just the music. And I actually, all through university, played this soundtrack. What's the word? The one where the track, all of these songs without the words, where it's just a musical side.
Instrumental.
That's it. The instrumental. I played the instrumental whenever I needed to do a big study session.
Yeah.
I would put that on, and the next thing I knew, we're at the end of the CD, and I'm like, whew, okay, back to earth. Here we are. Here, but geez, I've done a lot of work. And I don't know, I just found studying to that track just took me into a whole nother time and place, like a real intense meditation. And I was able to power through what I was doing whenever I listened to that track. And so there's two facets to that. It's the memories of the movie, the bringing to life Shakespeare, and the emotions that you go through, with all of the scenes of that movie, and then the romance, and then me loving Leonardo DiCaprio, still do.
So speaking of romance, are you married? Do you have some romance in your life?
No romance. I am divorced. I have been by myself for a decade.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup or a nightmare breakup?
Well, I left the relationship and took with me my two children, who were 2 and 3 at the time. So it was a very difficult breakup, but it was the best thing for both of us. He's now repartnered with somebody who is so him. I have not, if you looked at us, you'd be like, how the heck did you two get together?
What was the hardest part being a single mom?
Your own judgment of yourself. That's really been the thing that struggled with for the most of the time, is to remember this whole single mum bullshit is self-made, yeah, stereotypes that I have obviously had growing up about people who had failed marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to fix a marriage that wasn't fixable, and the guilt associated with that, then dealing with being a mum with 2 children, because he has a FIFO job, so we call it FIFO in Australia. I don't know if you have it, where they fly in and fly out to work. So he was away 3 weeks a month when we were married anyway, so we didn't see much of him. So then having that, well, I'm bringing up the kids on my own pretty much, and I have to be a shining light and beacon, and I can't get depressed, and and they have to be good kids, and all of that, and it's just totally unnecessary added. So dealing with that, yeah, it's probably been getting through that critical side of my own self has been the biggest thing. The most wonderful thing.
Have you been going on any dates at all?
I had a couple of really short. I think I've dated 6 times in 10 years, and they've all been very short and intense. So 3-month wonders. I had 1-year relationship, but mostly 3-month wonders, and they've all been very intensely teaching me a relationship lesson, which is why I got into the whole Juno regression, because I was like, there's a pattern here, and I need to see what's going on here, and what's the deal with that? And the last relationship ended spectacularly, disastrously, and I was like, you know what, I'm done for life. And then I realized in the last 2 years, since that's been done, 2.5 years since the last dating attempt, I realized how important relationships were for personal growth. And I'm like, oh, do I have to try again?
I love it. That kind of fits this song here, Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
Right? It's a fitting song. What a great song. What a great musical, actually.
Oh, he just produced. It's amazing to grow up with Andrew Lloyd Webber doing the soundtrack of our lives, really, through all those musicals. It's just, we haven't had it since. That particular decade of the musical theatre was astounding, yeah? Phantom of the Opera, oh my God, that is just like... My cousin took me to see that. Well, my dad paid for it. I went on, when I was in university and I was studying marketing at university, I'm a very bossy person, and I said to my dad, bless him, I said, Dad, I had a checkout chick job as a cashier at Toys R Us, right? I don't know if you still have Toys R Us.
Yeah, we did. Barely.
Yeah,
we did.
Barely, yeah. So I said to Dad, I need to go on work experience, and so I got myself a work experience job in Toys R Us, and I had to fly to Sydney the capital city, to it's not the capital city at all. It's the rest of the world. The rest of us think it's the capital city. The capital city is Canberra, but our main business city is Sydney, so it should be the capital. So I had to fly to Sydney to go do this work experience, and I stayed with my cousin Sue. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to take you to the theatre. And she said, right. She told Dad to buy us the tickets, as you do, because she's just as bossy as me. And she told him, you have to get these specific seats. And he's like, I'm not buying A reserved tickets. She's like, yes, you are. And you will do it, and you'll get these seats. And it wasn't until we were in Phantom of the Opera that I realised why she picked the seats, because the chandelier fell on us. I was like, oh, you set me up for that. Like, wow, that was cool. Like, in the middle of the, the scene. And it just spoke to me. This is just such a, you can be on everybody's side watching this as a musical and listening to it again. You're like, oh, who do I go for? Like, there's a compelling argument for each person in this saga, this love triangle. And it's it's the ghost and yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I loved it for sure. Do you collect anything? Are you a collector of anything?
No, I don't collect anything. I've always wanted to collect things. I love people who have collections, and I've tried bits and pieces of things, and they never really worked. Like the thing that I thought I would be most into collecting was crystals, but no, that didn't transpire. I collect a lot of essential oils, but I use those. Do you know what I mean? Like I have so many of those, but I use them, so I see them as medicine. So I don't see them as a collectible item. No, I'm not a collector. No, it's the very disappointing aspect of I feel like I should have something to collect, but I realized a long time ago, I think after doing so much traveling as a teenager and in my 20s around Europe, I would come home with things that I collected from, significant places that I've been to traveling in. And I remember thinking one day, well, I've moved a lot. I think I've moved, I get really itchy feet, and I usually moved every 1 to 2 years. Yeah. So it's a lot of house moves. Somewhere along that line, I was just repacking the same stuff over and over again. And I'm like, this is all going. Like, I can't pay for, and I can't go through the boxes one more time. And I literally, got rid of everything. And I think that was the sign. I'm not a clutter person either.
I find collectors, I find it clutter. Right. Just, I can't walk into somebody's house and they're like, oh my God, look at all my bird statues. I'm like, oh my God, that's aggressive. I can't have any of that. I always find I'm like really self-conscious about what I will say to them, what I want. Like if I like something and if they don't really know me, then I'm scared they'll buy me, like my husband's mom, when we first met 22 years ago, she was like, you like giraffes? That's amazing. Every birthday, like giraffes. And I literally said to Ty, I'm like, you got to tell her to stop, because I'm not collecting them. Like I like them. I'd like to pet one. I'd like to feed one. I don't want my whole entire house full of giraffes. Right. So I'm not a big collector at all. So we are down to like your last song. Can you believe it? It's so crazy. So I'm going to pick it. Hopefully it's okay, but I'm going to pick it. And here we go. I thought some Adele would be really good to end with. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch. Why not? She's such a good singer. She's I'm excited to know what this song means to you. I can actually see you doing a session to this song.
Oh, this is my divorce song.
Oh, good. I love it.
Yeah, so this one, so predictable. This song came out when my husband and I divorced. So when we moved out of the family home, we moved up the mountain range, literally 45 minutes up the hill. And so it was just a great song it's a really windy range to play as you're driving around this windy, foggy little country town up in the mountains. And it was everything that encapsulated my grief with my decision to leave, because it was, yes, we could have had it all, but we didn't. And I chose that we had tried enough and walked away. And at that time, it was just the perfect grief song for me. And you at that stage, I wasn't a real belter out in the car. I didn't really sing out loud. I do a lot now, but I could sing out loud to that one, and I could cry and just scream that song. And it's strange because you would think that maybe that might be his song, being I'm the one that left you. But I think that a lot of people don't think about when people make a decision to leave and they're the ones who leave, you have as much guilt and remorse about that decision. Nobody ever makes that decision lightly. So this was the perfect breakup song for me at that time. And, I don't listen to Adele very much at all anymore, but at that time this was on repeat, and the kids would sing it out loud. They had no idea the significance. But
You're like, yeah, sing that. I love it. So with all your kind of adversity and everything that you've kind of been through, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to leave somebody that's maybe listening to the podcast that maybe is struggling or maybe went through some of the things that you've went through?
One day at a time. Always look for something to uplift your spirits. So I used photography at that time in my life to capture my emotion, notice when I was feeling down, and then purposely go out to find something that would inspire me. So I've always been somebody looking for inspiration. And my advice to anybody who enjoys music is curate what you listen to. Be aware of the words that the people are singing that comes into your ears, because a song and the lyrics of a song are actually like an affirmation. What you listen to through the words of the music goes straight into your subconscious mind. So if you're listening to people speak shit with beautiful music, you're taking that stuff in, yeah? So really be curious about what it is that you're singing at the top of your lungs, because you're repeating that as your mantra. So what do you want in your world? Don't be singing breakup songs, yeah? If you want to manifest a relationship, find songs, and a friend of mine does this. She creates this whole playlist of love songs where it sounds like they're singing to her. I was like, oh, yeah, that's a really cool idea, because you're being wooed in the singing. Like, really listen to it, and then take the power of your ears back and learn to create playlists that are for certain moods. You need to feel angry. Create yourself an angry playlist. Get it out of your system. Don't repress it. When we repress emotion, it manifests into illness. So sing that shit out, Get yourself a drum kit if you need to, and go down the garage and play the drums. I used to have one. It's really good therapy. Use music as therapy. Music is therapy. It is this amazing connection, and just geek out on your music, and don't let the world tell you what to listen to. If you like freaking Baroque music, go and find Baroque music. Like, find what your jam is, and then create playlists, and then curate your mood and your world through your ears. That's my advice.
I love it. Such great advice. But before I let you go, I want, obviously, for you just to kind of talk a little bit about where my guests can find you. Where can we find you online, or how do we get in touch with you if we want to go through this process with you?
Yeah, so the best place is my website, which is katische.com, my name, katische.com. And if you want to learn about reincarnation and past lives, then go to my brand new podcast, which is called The Infinite Life, INFINITE, infinite as in never ending, The Infinite Life with Katische Haberfield. And it's only 4 episodes in, I think it is. And you can learn. It's a teaching, and then people share their stories, and we have guests, but it's a storytelling kind of a podcast, storytelling and teaching. So you can be curious.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm going to get a hold of you because I want to do it too, because I love that kind of stuff. That's my total jam. I love that. I just want to thank you so much for being on Music Junkies today, sharing your story. We didn't get through all of your songs, so I just want to obviously invite you again where we can go even more deeper now that we know each other a little bit more. I appreciate you. I hope you had a good time on Music Junkies. I did have a great time.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you so much, Annette.
You're welcome.